Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the author of Hot Women Rock, How to Discover Your Midlife Entrepreneurial Mojo. And my guest today is somebody who I met about 3 years ago in Amsterdam, when I was over in the Netherlands to go to a TED Talk. And very fortunately, I've been back to the Netherlands several times to speak at women economic forums. So I've been able to visit and we have regular conversations. So my guest was born and raised in the Netherlands. She's the mother of 3 gorgeous teenage sons and lives together with her family in a historic house near the beach, about 20 minutes away from Amsterdam. She's a people strategist and a true globalist. Her work ranges from strategic talent management to mentoring entrepreneurs, from corporates to solopreneurs. Talent is always in the center of her focus. She founded and manages GEM.Partners or GEM.Partners, created Soul Language, and is in the middle of launching the Feminine Principle and House of Soul. The latest branch on the business tree is the development of a life journey game called Soul Enigma. So it's a big welcome today to Christine Koetsier. Christine, how are you today?
Hi, Pets. I'm really good. Of course, it's always so nice to chat together. And this time you are the one posing the question. So I look forward to our conversation. Bring me to where you want me to be.
So we're talking about your entrepreneurial journey. Were you entrepreneurial as a child, or is it something that developed through your career?
I was very entrepreneurial, actually. I'm the youngest of family of 6, so I have 5 siblings. So I guess I had to come up with my own style to create space. My parents were both entrepreneurs, and from a very young age onwards, I was, let's say, dealing and wheeling, if we can put it like that, with my father with horses. I've been horseback riding from my childhood on, and we bought horses together. Then, of course, I would really ride competitions. And I always remember that I had this conversation with my father, and I think I was 13, and we sold a horse. And so I said, okay. So I had calculated everything on the back of a little cigar box, so to speak. And we were sitting down, and I said to my father, so 50% is for me, right? Because without me, the horse would not have been worth that much. And then my father said, well, no, but without me, you would not have had a horse. So I've learned my lessons early, I think. Yeah. And I've always been stimulated by my parents to stretch, do what you can, use your talents.
Yeah, that's so important. And so what were your favorite subjects? What were you most interested in at school and going on into further education?
Well, here we come perhaps already to a point where life did not really brought me where I wanted to be, because my first study is botanics. And I did not like it, but my mother thought I would really like it. So what I did was I took all the subjects possible that had to do with economics, marketing, external communication. I did law, all the subjects that were more people and business related. In that time, I thought it was really important to help corporates to speak their language, so real external communication. Now, let's say 30 years later, it's still exactly what I do. And the fact that I studied botany helped me enormously in the work with soul language, where, of course, we look at the world, at the human population through the structure of the soul. I did a lot of cabaret, international exchanges, internships on very exotic places. So,
very nice.
So
what was your first job when you first left full-time education? What did you go into?
Yeah, I was in a family business. And at that time, there was something else that was holding me back quite a bit. I had a paralyzed arm through an accident, and I was very happy and very fortunate that the people that I worked for my final paper, that family business, really wanted me in on a very high position. And so I took it, and that was a good start. So again, in an entrepreneurial setting. Then later on, when I had a nerve transplantation, and this was altogether, it took me 5 years to get my right arm back to work. I knew I wanted to grow even more into a business direction, more corporate direction. And so I embarked on an executive MBA, which was by then a very new thing.
Mm.
At the same time, to make things always complicated, I lived with my, by then, yeah, just married and newlywed we were, I think you say, husband. We lived in Indonesia, partly in Jakarta, and most of the time on a very small and remote island. So to travel back and forward to Europe, I could take 43 kilos sea wife luggage, they call it. And I took always a lot of papers, prints, because this was an early stage internet period.
Yeah.
And I always brought a whole wheel of Gouda cheese.
So you got your priorities right. Books and cheese, they were the main thing.
Relationships, relationships. That was important. Yeah.
So then what happened? Were you still living in Indonesia, or at what stage did you come back to the Netherlands?
Words, I was around 30 years old then. So with the whole international story, the MBA story, just married story, there was a thick layer of judgments. Why not having babies? And,
Yeah.
this is not so long ago, Pat.
No, no.
So I think coming from such a free background, and that was my first real bump in the road that I couldn't take by my own willpower so much. And so that was important. And from there, I luckily got in the best people business that there is in executive search. I entered one of the top 7 global companies, and I was part of the Amsterdam office. And I can tell you that it's very entrepreneurial, and it's, I guess, one of the most competitive industries that there is. So I was right in place, I could work out what I thought was my place in the corporate world, and not being so much managed on a career path. So that was better for me. So again, however, it was a partnership. It was a partnership with very independent set of rules, and therewith, again, very entrepreneurial. So I was there for over a decade and learned a lot.
What did you love about that work? What was it that played into your strengths in that work?
I would say everything that I am and everything that you know about me. Most of all, I think relationships, I did no longer bring cheese, but I brought myself to the table for good conversations. Yeah. And of course, to remember to make companies speak their truth. And I learned quick enough, of course, this is all about people. And we say when you have the people part right, nothing else matters. Yeah. And I love to help people to make their next step and progression, to progress them into their career. Yeah. And I love to interview them. And so I love, that world it's about 3 C's. It's contacts, companies, and candidates. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And also I became really good at it, and I love to be really good at something. So yeah.
So what was
And I
your
could
next step?
really raise my voice in the female executive corner, and I
Oh,
could
yeah.
really make my imprint
Yeah.
with big, um, yeah, big conversations, I would say, and large projects, global projects that we spread through the whole company. And
Having got other people on their next step, what was your next step?
from there, then I experienced like the whole world, the crisis before this one, and that was the one around money.
Mm.
And I was just becoming part of the London office of our organization. And then it was October 2008. And yeah, we had to think really different on how to build success. And we were already thinking of a different business model where we could see more of what was necessary and going on beyond the question of a replacement for an executive.
Yeah.
So they're much more in the direction of strategic talent. Now, in that downtime, I picked up something that was already very near to my heart and which is now called soul language. And this is material that looks at your soul, at the structure of your soul, through the lens of archetypes. No. And from there onwards, I built my platform with not only strategic talent management and search, but also soul language and yeah, more more branches on that business tree, as you said.
Yeah.
So I took a decision. I think for a while I was a little bit diverted from the executive search and the strategic talent corporate markets to really develop the material that is now called soul language.
Mm.
And then I think 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I had a very deep conversation with myself, and I said, no, I don't want to give that up. I really like it. It's important. You can change the future of someone. You can change the future of a company, and you're really good at it, Christine. So you need to bring your talent to the fore. So that was the moment where my very good colleague Donna Hamlin in San Francisco and I decided, okay, let's formalize this. And with that one step, my platform became, you know, also very top in the area of board directors. And we have yearly executive class in Harvard, and I'm super proud of it. And I can say it because I was not the one created it, but it's world class. It's world class. And yeah, I'm happy to still be there because diversity is extremely important, and gender diversity is one of the hardest parts of diversity. So
Yeah.
that will always be part of my work.
Can you just say a bit more about that? What does it do for people who uh, have their soul language profile done? How does it help them? How does it help the business they work in?
Hmm. Um, well, I think a very easy way to look at soul language is to think that in this more spiritual time periods, we talk a lot about very general things like go soul or go deep, go with, I don't know, go somewhere,
Yeah.
and somewhere is still very big.
Mm.
And what soul language does, and which so fits my profile, like with executive search, you bring people to the next step. Soul language looks at 7 aspects of the structure of your soul. Soul language is the GPS of your navigation system.
Mm.
And so it's very precise. And what it means is when you start as an entrepreneur, you can really find out for yourself what is actually the underlying goal of your actions. Because being an entrepreneur is just an outcome. Having your purpose is just an outcome.
Mm.
There's more underneath it. And with soul language, we can shine a light on that, and we can even help you to understand when you are in a positive mode, working on that, or in a more negative mode, or somewhere in the middle, where we often are, of course, in our daily life.
Yeah.
So it helps you to understand, yeah, the inner you.
And so you're developing that further now. Tell us more about where you're going with soul language.
So language is a universal language pad. And so, in fact, you can do everything. We're looking at applications for children to, for example, teach them when you come from when you speak positive language, then people can react much better. Think of developing a doll when that will only talk back when you approach her in a positive way. Or think about a life journey game where through your actions you have certain outcomes, and you may, yes or no, go to the further next stage in your life level. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I speak a lot about in my work with soul language is that you should not forget, as an entrepreneur, that what you bring out there is from the same DNA as your soul. So the soul of your company, your organization or platform will have the same archetype. And therewith, you can already learn a lot of how you should grow your business.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's really interesting. I know you and I are going to dig further into it in our own time, but we've given other people just a taster of what it's about. So this is Pat Duckworth, and today I'm talking to Christine Koetsier in the Netherlands. And Christine, so what's your goal now? You've just talked a little bit about your purpose. Do you want to say what your purpose is now? What really motivates you?
Well, for me, my goal is to really globalize soul language, and all the work that I do is on a global level. And so also the work that we do in corporates, however small, we want to do meaningful work for corporates that are able to handle it, so to speak, that are able to understand what we are doing and how we can help them. So language is universal, can grow as large as she wants. I will be there. I will be in the driving seat. For myself, my personal goals on a soul level are much more about acknowledgement. This is important material. So language is important. Also, the work that we do in GEM.Partners is important, because the question behind the question is often the question that you need to answer in your advisory work. So that is important, to understand on a deeper level, in a simple way, who you are and where you can go is important. So that is soul language. And of course, to help to decrease the imbalance that there is in the masculine and feminine energetic outcomes is important too. Meaning, in many structures in our society nowadays are not in order. They are not in balance. And I know that soul language is also neutralizer for that. Progression, that in general is my life goal. So I want to push this as far as I can.
What do you think were the helpful beliefs that your parents gave you that meant that you've been able to build this career and this business? And are you handing those beliefs on to your boys?
I think that my boys are handing their beliefs over to me. That's my impression.
They teach us all the time.
I think my father was a very free thinker. So believing in yourself and making things possible for yourself is definitely something that was in my upbringing.
Mm.
And also later, I don't think that's not so much from my parents, but later on I learned that you need to surround yourself not only with the 5 most successful people and what do we always hear. No, surround yourself with people that are with you on your journey.
Mm.
Be it, I have had for many years from 1 to 5 coaches,
Mm.
always, or
Mm.
advisors, or but make sure that you're not alone. I think that is also a very important thing, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
definitely. So what beliefs are your sons teaching you then?
oh, I think what runs through all 3 of my boys is that you must believe in what you feel is good for you, and you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot, but never alone. I think it's something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think one of the things that my son teaches me is that real authenticity. Because whenever I see him, whenever I introduce him to people, he's always absolutely himself.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a parent, you kind of think, oh, I wish you would just kind of take the edge off a little bit on that. But people respond to him because he is absolutely authentic and himself.
Yeah.
And that teaches me a lot about, well, sometimes you have to take the risk of being yourself. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And also, of course, on the journey as an entrepreneur, and it's sometimes hard to express yourself. I must tell you, when I went from always being out there with other people, that I was the one asking questions, going into soul language, and, and bring myself to the fore, in high level search work, you're always the one that is invisible.
Yes.
Everybody sees you, nobody knows exactly what you do. Now, bringing soul language to the fore, I had to, circle 1,000 times around my ex, if you wish,
Mm.
to yeah, be more comfortable by showing myself. Eh? So you must own what you do, of course, and then there are still a million little steps following that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think, the whole thing about soul language is that it helps you to be authentic and to recognize who you are. So, what does success mean for you now?
I think success then is making that progression, being acknowledged, giving direction. So, step up and lead.
Mm.
And that is more on the soul level, I would say. On the emotional level, I really think not feeling alone, eh?
Mm.
feeling partnered. That is
Mm.
for me a very good feeling of success. And to be able to be light and have fun and have new ideas to push your business forward. That is for me successful. And also money is very important.
Mm.
And I think money is important because it's a reflection of your happiness in what you do. And sometimes money takes, a little bit of your patience. Can happen. Yeah? And and then it's still important. And that's why I place it in the emotional part. No, it's not because you don't earn a lot in a certain period that your business is not good. That is all old school. We can forget about that.
Mm.
But you should also forget that money is not important. It is
Yeah.
important, and it will make you feel good. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's
it's a
rec-
mirror. It's a reflection.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I've had that conversation a few times now because, particularly if you're working in healing or therapy. You know, you can think that the money side of it shouldn't be important, but it's consistently this message that if you don't have enough money, you can't help the people that you want to help. So we have to keep the energy of money, the recognition of
Yeah.
money within our businesses. So your top tips for new entrepreneurs, you've given a clue, the breadcrumbs are there. Tell me what's your top tip for new entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so I go back to my father, I think. He would say, but you need to do your numbers.
Mm,
And Pat, you know this.
mm,
When I say that, I don't mean always money.
mm,
And especially to female entrepreneurs, of which I think many of us have multiple roles, absolutely different than our male preneurs,
mm,
colleagues. Huh? So doing your numbers, what do I mean by that? Is first and foremost, think about the time that you can really spend on your business on strategic level, weekly, monthly, travel time, whatever time means to you, and be honest about it.
So we're getting near the end now. People who want to find out more about you, how can they do that?
They can always just WhatsApp me. I know that you're able to give them my number. They can visit me through the websites, and they can always email me. Find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Facebook. I'm not so active there. I believe in one-to-one contact a lot. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, try to come as close as you can.
That's lovely. So what have we learned from today? Well, we've learned that progression is a measure of success, how you're moving forward and who you're moving forward with. So not just those 5 successful people, but the coaches, the people that you want to surround yourself with that will help you to progress and be successful. That it's important to do your numbers. Not just the money, it's the time that you're spending on different things and the time that you don't just spend in your business, the time you spend traveling, the time that you spend with your family. It should all be part of your planning. And growth and development, you know, we should be looking for how we can develop and grow all of the time. And being authentic, we brought that up in really understanding yourself, however you do that, so you can be authentic in your dealings. And relationships, the importance of relationships, whether you're taking books or Gouda with you, it's you need to build those relationships and have those one-to-one contacts. So much we've learned today. Thank you so much, Christine. It's been a joy talking to you.
Thank you, Pat. And you're such a good summarizer. Thank you.
And to everybody viewing, remember to watch out for more of these wonderful conversations with amazing entrepreneurs. I'll see you next time.